All right, looks like we are live. I hope the internet holds. I have not had much success with the internet here. Today I am still trying out Bitwig. You'll see up in the top corner here, it says I have 9 days left, top left corner of my Bitwig trial. And then I would have to purchase it or use Splice to pay it off, which is a consideration if I decide I really want it. Obviously, I have Live as well. And the upgrade price for Live sometimes coincides with like if the full version of Bitwig is on sale. There was recently a cross-grade sale where it was, I think, $200 for the full version of Bitwig. And I think my upgrade price for Live used to be $210 last I checked. So the thought crossed my mind, since I've also dabbled with Linux in the past, and I might do so again. My machine's still on Windows 10, and I'm not sure how Windows 11 will run. At some point, I'm going to have to find out. So we shall see. My thoughts on Bitwig so far, I have really enjoyed it, to be honest. There's a lot of stuff I like about it. For live performance, I still prefer Live. I see my connection is already having a nosedive. Okay. Doesn't bode well. I'll be back home in a month's time. Obviously, the trial will be over in 9 days of Bitwig, so I'll be back on something else by then. I've also been really busy with some work that I thought was going to take a few days, which has ended up taking like 2 weeks. I've had my head buried in spreadsheets and not made very much music. I have done more with Bitwig offline, though. You'll see I haven't saved very many things, but a lot of the time I'll just open it up and learn something about it, learn one of the synth modules, or I got Push to work. As you can see, this is not PXT General, which I usually use between different DAWs with my Push one. This is a script called Driven by Moss. He makes a script for Reaper as well, Driven by Moss for Reaper, but his primary one was the Bitwig one. And it's pretty cool. You've got different note modes. You've got, is it responding? No, it is not. Let me restart it. I'm not sure. I've done unplugged and replugged a few things around my desk, so I'll give it a pass on that one. So if I go scale, I can turn off the scale, and then I can just play chromatically, which is how I usually use my Push. If I press note again, I can switch to different sequencers. There's a poly sequencer, a raindrop sequencer. There's different drum modes, drum sort of sequencing modes, including an XOX one, where you can actually switch patterns and program the patterns on one page, which is pretty cool. You can't do that in Live. So yeah, it's very, very well implemented in Bitwig, this Push script. I can also see like the levels of the sound on the meters, which you can do on Push 2 in Live, but not on Push 1. So it's like retrofitting my Push with more features than it had at launch, which is pretty sick. So yeah, I got that working and was testing out some of the live performance stuff in session view as well. You've got in Live, you have the effects in your like group. You can chain multiple instruments, and then you can actually dial between them with a knob. And Bitwig has a similar thing with the effect selector or instrument selector. So like here, you could have two things. Let's find another synth. And so now, instead of layering them, I can toggle between them. And you can use these arrow keys, or you can map a modulator. So every device you'll see has this little modulation section. And so I could create a knob, like a macro. And then I could map the macro. This is like the mapping button. I can map it to anything, including this. So now the knob will go between the organ and that. If I add another sound, sure, I don't know what that'll sound like, but we'll find out. I just have to map it to a little bit further. So yeah, that's handy for me in my live performance setups. I will usually have a track with like 5 different sounds. More than 5 gets tricky on a knob like this. So obviously you'll sort of have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like that across the knob. And then what that allows me to do is just have one track with like chords on it, one track with a mono synth or a lead maybe, and then one track with bass. But then I can switch between different bass presets on the bass track or leads on the lead track, and not have loads and loads and loads of tracks in a live performance, where on push particularly, you've got 8 tracks by default in your sort of session view. So you'll start having to page between different banks and things with more than that. So I try to kind of constrain it like that using these chain selectors. So yeah, in terms of that, Bitwig is similar. But I've had issues where I hit record and there's maybe a bar count in, and then the first note that I played doesn't get recorded because I maybe played it a fraction too early, and then it gets cut off by the start of the loop, if you know what I mean. Live somehow doesn't do that. It has a way of working with it. And if you overdub into a clip, let's say I put a note in here and it goes beyond the edge of the clip, in live it'll play this as it loops around, and in Bitwig it doesn't. Why are we not hearing anything? It's on the right track. What's happening? Oh, did I not? I deleted all the devices. Oops. So you see, that note gets cut off. So if I record into a clip and my note happens to play a fraction early instead of on the 1, then the note gets cut off. And that's pretty annoying if you want to do live MIDI looping, whereas live would actually play that whole note for however long it is while it loops. And, you know, sometimes you have a groove that's syncopated that starts on the and, you know, chords that start 1, 2, 3, through bum, 2, 3, 4, dum, that kind of thing. It's kind of important. So it's a pity that so many of them don't do that. I'm pretty sure like the MPC and Machine do that properly and live. So yeah, it feels like live performance isn't really the focus. There's also no looper. There is a video of what's his name, Polarity, making a looper out of a delay. Ooh, my connection is so bad. Sorry about that. I hope you are able to even hear me or something. Hey man, yeah, I've just been sort of giving a little bit of my views on it for a few different uses that I have that I use live for. So yeah, there's no looper, but there's the delay device. And the delay plus is pretty sick. So, like if I went to this length, let's turn on the metronome. I'm not in note mode. There we go. Let's put this at like 50%. And put the feedback at 100. There we go. So you could literally so that'll loop infinitely. And then I could hit freeze. And now it's not going to loop what I'm playing because it's frozen. Problem is, oh, and you can extend it beyond this 2 bars by putting another one in the effects. It's got like a feedback effects loop here, which is pretty sick. So you could put another delay in there and then it like extends the length of the loop. Trouble with this workflow is eventually you start hearing distortion. And it's not this isn't soft clipping, this is like a blur feature. And you can turn it off, so it's not that. I tried that. Also, you see extra parameters on the side here. I'm pretty sure I've tried it with soft clip off. So we're not hearing it yet, but I had a loop going for quite a while, and eventually I started hearing little bits of distortion creeping in. So that's the only bummer with that workflow. It would be sick if there was a fully clean and transparent mode for the delay. Well, it's a pretty sick toy. I don't know if you ever used FL, because that to me looks also pretty toyish. And I feel like I would much rather use this. And then, yeah, the modulation is pretty cool. You get like curves. It's kind of like if you did a serum type modulation. Where would it be? LFO. Curve. So it's also weird that this is the initial sound for the FM4. Like if I device default, load device default preset, it's this sound, which has all sorts of modulation on it. So that's feedback modulation happening. Now it's being modulated by this one. So this is sort of a mod amount, how much this is affecting other sounds. What did I want to do? I wanted to go a few octaves down. Let's bring up the sustain. So let's go for curve. I also like with this browser, it's context specific. So if I'm clicking plus in a modulator, it's letting me filter the modulators, and I can immediately type to find the one I want. So let's just map this quickly. Map this to that mod. I think we need to make it unipolar. And then, of course, I think there's some presets for this. How do I do that, though? Here. There we go. To make it monophonic, it's on the side here. It's a pretty basic, boring sound, just sort of explaining the basics of it. What am I looking for now? What's also pretty sick with this, you can decide how it handles sort of the polyphony and the portamento and stuff. It's like, it's quite well thought out in my opinion. Where's the glide though? Here it is. Oh, there's a legato mode for the glide usually. It's usually a little button next to the glide, but I don't see it on this device, oddly enough. Voice stacking is pretty interesting. It's basically unison, so you can add like 3 voices, and then this voice stack spread you can map to things like your pan. I haven't mapped it to this pitch before. Let's see if that works. There we go. So now each of your 3 voices are pitched slightly differently, and then pan. And that's pretty interesting, because then you could have different values for anything. You could also have in here, you could have let's close this modulator. You can also have like a random modulator, so then each note or each voice will have a random value. So you could do that with filters and things to get a lot of interesting movement in your sounds. And yeah, like phase 4. Just looking for the glide. Here, this glide has a legato mode, so it won't glide when you play a new note that's not connected to a previous note. It'll only glide when you have one note overlapping another. I'm not sure why the FM4 doesn't have it. But yeah, it's been interesting getting to know it. I'm going to open a couple of things I've done in it. I haven't finished very much. This was the first stream I did, which got cut off a few times, so I can't recall how much I was able to show of it. Let's close this. I'll leave that tab. I'll just enable this audio engine. checking if that drum kit was even in. Detail editor is really cool. I haven't figured out where I'd go from there. Probably back to this sort of section with the bass again or something, or a new bass, or I don't know. Whether or not I'll carry on with it, it's kind of cool. I'm not particularly attached to it though. This was another drum and bassy one I made. Pretty simple one. Made myself sort of a mastering chain group thing that I think I saved. So this is all visual stuff folded in there. And this tool is just turning down the master relative to how much I gained it up in the limiter. So if I turn these two off, let's do this one first, and then this one. That's the unmastered sort of raw version. So I'm turning down the master when I have the chain on, just for being able to compare them. I could probably map them to a button as well to toggle both those things on and off. And then in here I've got, this was maybe an older version. I hadn't figured out yet how you can create. Cat always wants attention. He's so cute. I think it's because I'm talking. He wants attention. But he won't come and chill like near me where I can actually stroke him. And he's quite cute. So this was actually my voice with an effect on it. I ran it through a plugin called, or rather a device in Bitwig called Tree Monster. And then I rendered it because I didn't want to ever hear my voice again. I can't even remember what I said. I said some dumb thing on the mic, you know. So let's try that effect on this just for curiosity. It seems to map velocity or loudness to pitch. So yeah, that was kind of what I played with to make this. And then this sound. Okay, these were the drums. I must tell Bitwig's push script I want to drum. And then Is this a group? It is a group. Here's the bass. Oh, the group was called Phase 4. No, it was just called group. Don't know why the sound is not on note mode. Oh, there we go. So this is one of those curve modulations on a phase distortion synth. It's not my best patch, but it was just messing around. Then there's effect nested inside it, which is pretty cool because it means you can have a track, you can have a synth preset with all the effects built into it without having to save an effect rack, if you know what I mean. In live, you have to save an effect rack, and then you have to open the effect rack to see what it's inside it all the time, whereas this is just like laid bare. That is the synth, and then your effects are inside it, which is pretty sick. It was just like a saturation, and then I think I processed the lows and highs, the highs separately, so they've got a reverb on it, free reverb. Those are the highs, and then the lows don't have anything, but I think I modulated the low volume with the kick drum. Maybe, or maybe I did that at the group level. No, I think I did it on the individual sounds. In other words, on the master, on the project, you've got modulators. So I had the kick drum coming in to this audio sidechain, and then it spits out a signal looking like what you see over here. So it's quite cool. It's got even it's got the loudness of the different kicks mapped out, and then I could use that signal to duck the bass or whatever, which is what I've done with the lows on that effect split. And then this sound. This may have been a preset that I found. I thought it was pretty cool. I think this was probably also a preset, but it was literally exactly the sound I was thinking of. And then I found it. So that was pretty fun. And then I'm in scale mode. I want to be chromatic, please. Something like that. Very straightforward little idea. Using pretty much all Bitwig devices except the reverb. I found for like a short room reverb, I prefer the sound of this free Oral River. The Bitwig reverb sounded kind of metallic at small sizes. I find that with a lot of stock reverbs. I am not normally super nocturnal, but I had hiccups today, and it somehow threw my day off because I didn't eat in the morning. It was like heartburn sort of hiccups, and then I had a nap. I sort of slept them off, and now I'm now awake at night. So it is what it is. I had a weird day. Put it up to that. I had multiple naps today. Just wasn't feeling 100%. I'm feeling much better tonight. This is the next one. This was actually the second one I made. This is using all these E-drum, like they've got these synthesized drum modules, and I played with them all, and then I saturated them all. With without the saturator. It's giving it quite a bit of character. I was also, the reason this started was that I started playing with probability. So there's some probability going on where certain things, if they have like a symbol like this means this isn't happening all the time. It's happening like, or it might have a chance setting or something. Here it says never first. So on the second cycle of this loop, you see I've got it. It's a, is that right? It is a 2-bar loop, and I've looped it so it's 4 bars. So every second loop, certain sounds will play, and you can do the same with like the first time only. So like a crash, you might have only on the first time and then not on the subsequent repeats. So, and then there's a section near the end here where I took everything and made it like 50% likely on this chance. Here we go. So yeah, this is like your sort of chance of it happening. So I made the whole beat was like 50% each sound likelihood of playing. Anyway, that was kind of the experimentation with this, was some Bitwig devices and probability and so again, here on the project level, I've got a modulator for the kick drum that I can use to duck things, which you can hear the pad is ducking. I need to up my buffer size just now. I think it's 128. And I'm using like routing software to get the signal into OBS. There's ratchets as well, where it like plays more than one note, so that little hi-hat roll is a ratchet. The pad was just a grid preset that I found, and I ran it through one VST, good old tape mate in Reactor. So this will play differently every time because of the probability of the notes. That's interesting. You never really know how it's going to turn out. I would probably render a version of it that I like, you know, play it a few times and record it out. See which one sounds the coolest. If I hit A, this is like the automation, but you can also unfold the automation like that. And then the top lane is always like whatever you've last selected. You can see the different values there, so I can just automate whatever's last touched. And then it creates a lane underneath automatically once I automate it. So I also figured out how to... Ooh, is that not the way? No. Do I have to double click it maybe? Nope. I don't know. I haven't quite figured out all the automation shortcuts, but it seems to have everything I need. I just need to learn where it is. Um, so yeah, very simple little idea that one was. I was thinking I was going to start something from scratch today. And if the internet dies, I'll just carry on offline. Nothing much more I can do, unfortunately. Yeah. So maybe something with chords for a start. I'm going to try and start with sort of initial presets. The analog device seems pretty. What's it? It's not analog. Analog's the name that Live gives a similar device, but they call it polysynth. And this device actually has unison, the traditional unison. Probably for backwards compatibility. I think they probably made this plugin before they made the modulators section. Yeah, so this one doesn't really use the modulators. It feels like it was designed pre the modulators. It's got a few things pre-routed, which I suppose also is convenient. You don't have to add an ADSR for the filter, ADSR for anything else you want to modulate, but you can. LFO. Seems to respond to velocity? No. Every other note seems to be different. I am confused. Might have been a bug. doing it again. I don't know why. I don't get it. I am lost. I'm going to see what the other LFO does. That's behaving as I expected it to. Could also try and modulate it per note. I don't know if you can modulate modulators. I would imagine you can. Key track. Yes, looks like we can modulate modulators. All right. I hadn't played with that stuff before, so that's a first. Reverb. So you can add stuff into the tank as well, similar to feedback effects. It's like reverb effects. So you create some interesting results. Try a phaser. It's pretty interesting. I dig how you can just go into a plugin to look at their specific presets. Interesting. Ooh, that's pretty cool. So obviously there's a pitch shifter of some sort in the feedback loop. Sick. I like that. Oh my god. Whoa, that's creepy. Holy crap. That's pretty sick. That was amp velocity sensitivity, and this is voice gain. Interesting. Okay. What I wanted to also try and do is map velocity to the filter cutoff. That's velocity, and map it to the filter. Then we can turn down the filter. I wonder if we can stop it from going too crazy high. with a filter. Is this an EQ? Sure is. Ah, that's a bit better, but less shrill. Need to go up an octave. Or start higher up, which is what I did the first time. I don't think I played them at all where they need to be. I can't say for certain, but I feel like the zoom is inverted from how live does it. You pull up to zoom in. I could be wrong. That could be how live does it. I think maybe I've found ways around even using that feature in live. I can't remember. I'm not used to it. The other oddity is Alt to scroll at the bottom, but I seem to have gotten sort of used to that now. Yeah. I don't think those were the chords I had in mind. Let's just see. So that's the bottom note. Okay, let's start over. Ooh, must be channel pressure. Hey, thanks for the follow, the subscribe. Hope you're having a nice evening or night. In my case, it is past midnight. It's unusual for me to be up this late. This is pretty cool for just stock Bitwig devices so far. I really dig that you can do a pitch shifted delay like that. It sounds all granular too. Oh, and it's got some ducking, I think. Maybe the sustain should go down because the notes feel like they stop suddenly. So like a long decay and a lower sustain. Bit slower. I'm not so sure about that one. What should we do now? New track. Seems to automatically go to a MIDI track unless you right click here and create an audio track, which is fair enough, I suppose. Let's see. I haven't really messed with the sampler all that much. Interesting. Doesn't feel like it's tracking correctly. Ah, that makes more sense. Interesting, interesting. Doesn't seem to give you like stereo control over the grains, which is a bit of a pity. Does this say voice pan? Because that would be interesting. It just says pan. But I would bet, like if I do stacking, map the pan. Doesn't seem to have 3 voices that are... Actually, we haven't changed the pitch of them. And we could do the speed, maybe? Ooh, there we go. We'd have to figure out what note is playing. A tuner would be nice. I believe there isn't one in here. And I don't think the replugs have a tuner. They don't have retune as a standalone VST. Do I have melder stuff? Yeah. Okay. Tricky. So that's C sharp, so I actually need to go down. It's nigh impossible to tune. Okay, sometimes it says C. What you could also do is just add something else that's tonal, like group it, and then add. When it loops like that, weird shit. But that's what's cool about samples, is you get stuff that you just never would normally get with a synthesizer. And that is half the point. That's pretty cool. Trippy. I bet if we crank that tracking, we'll be able to tune it more accurately. That is loud. So obviously the notes were not played very loudly, which is why I cranked the output. Hey, there we go. Where's my notes at? Oh, I've got to change this view. There we go. I'm going to quantize. Interesting. I feel like I should keep going with the sampler. Yeah, it's an interesting play. I don't even know where it's finding the stuff in my library. It's crazy. Okay, we use that. Could be interesting as well with the same sort of key tracking effect. Did I keep the tuner? I did not. Can we randomize the play position? I think we can. We can go random. Map it to this play offset. Oh, it's, ooh. It's jumping around. That's pretty cool. Except I want it to be like still. I'm sure I found a manual somewhere. Hold, there we go. So now each note on it's a different held value. Except we could do way less modulation. So they're all in that window. Ooh, that's a notch. Ooh, that's pretty cool. Like a very narrow band pass, rather. had an idea. I can group this. Duplicate. Let's call this and this can be texture. My keyboard's clearly not positioned where I'm used to it. So then on this chain, I wonder what that first chain will sound like distorted. And also this one, less highs. Maybe the whole lot could be distorted. I don't know which part of the chain it is. Let's just see. Let's go saturate. Okay, it's definitely just one part of the chain. Whoa, that's weird. Pretty creepy sound. This might be the longest I've streamed without a disconnection. I think the quality has fluctuated quite drastically, but I hope this hasn't been too grainy on stream. It's starting to find itself to be a little cheesy, but I'll keep working on it. Now, I love that reactor delay that I always use. I wonder if I can kind of get close by putting something in the feedback chain or modulating it or something. So we want to experiment with that. First, I need to send this. I like that you can do the sends like on this little panel on the side here without tabbing across and without cluttering your track panel either. Here it is. So instead of using that, I'll rather use an EQ in the tank, so to speak. Let's try EQ plus, because it kind of works like this, where you can easily draw in a high pass or a low pass. There we go. And then maybe we can make it resonant. So each time it runs through this, it's going to process it again and again. I wonder, see if you have it low down. Oh, it does make it more intense over time. But if you wanted to filter more and more, you might want to have a dry wet, which I think there is on most devices, maybe not on this one. Maybe down the side here. Nah, that's okay. We can make a chain. We can stick this in the chain. Let's kind of make it low and boost it. And then dial down the mix. Ooh, phasiness. Interesting. Doesn't quite behave the way I thought it might, but that's all good. Okay, but how do we get some, is there a pitch shift? There's both a frequency shifter and a pitch shifter. Cool. So now we just need to modulate this. That's pretty cool. It's pretty close to what I had in mind. For some comparison, the delay I normally use is this stereo tape delay that doesn't have a width control, so I have to use a tool afterwards. So in effects mode, it's purely wet, which is what we want right now. So I'm going to turn that one off. So I've always liked this delay. It does have a huge feedback. By default, which we can turn down here. And then I would add a tool, which is like Ableton's utility. And bring down the width. You can hear it also has like a bit of a pitch warble. And I think we got pretty close for not hearing it first. Also, that other delay is kind of muddy by default. So having the high pass built in is nice. And we can do blur. Becomes more like a reverb. Ooh. That's already too much feedback. That's pretty cool. Wow. Who needs the reverb when you got this thing? Woo! Maybe the delay can act as the reverb I want. I have no idea, to be honest, but let's find out. You can even add sends from here, which is pretty sick. So there's some handy shortcuts. D. E is like the editor at the bottom. D is the devices. E is that. F toggles the different views. So there's like the drum view and the note view. And so you can quite easily sort of toggle between stuff like that. And then Shift Tab brings the editor up at the top, which I also dig. Oh, I forgot about blur. It seems to be another kind of a short reverb. It might be what I'm looking for. What's bugging me here is there's like a delay, a slapback effect. There we go. I do love their electric drums. They really feel like they've put a lot of effort into these presets and things. Haha, you can control click to select every other thing. Ableton. Ableton does not have that freaking basic thing. Anyway. And then I figured out how you do choke groups, sort of. You can go cut by. They're both named the same thing right now. This should be. Just do like that, hat open and closed. So now cut by is hat open, cut by is hat closed. What's interesting is when I do this in in a new cell, I'll actually look for samples as well. even like under kick, it'll show me samples. Seems like in this chain selector, it's not the case. If I search, still not. It's just doing devices because we're in that view. So if I go here and go kick, it should give me some audio. No? Why not? Oh, looks like we're in hi-hat. Let's see if the same happens here. No, okay, so it's still not samples included. Whereas here, if I clear hi-hat, go kick, oh, maybe we have to change it here. Funny. I've had the expected behavior quite a few times, and I'm not sure why it's different today. If I just go category, oh, maybe because it was in device. Let's see if that applies here again. It would be quite cool if you can add samples in a layer like this. So if I go out of category, maybe we're already out. See, kick just has a smaller number, whereas if I do it here, I'm learning. Clear that out. And go category. Now, kick has loads of things. Like that could be interesting. Let's see if I can move that in here. Yes. It's nice that you can sculpt things with modulators anywhere in the rack, you know? sounds like it's a bit slow to me. It says 0%. It could be my imagination. I would have to get a very clicky sound to verify it. But I feel like it's not as snappy as it could be. See that? 1 millisecond, it says attack time. Surely we're losing some transient if there's a 1 millisecond attack time. Like a very, very small amount, but on a kick it matters. We could definitely layer it with. Maybe we can just have the kick part of this one. I didn't realize that was what that was. That's the... That is already more like what I was looking for than it was before. I wonder if we can just get the transient from this. Obviously, on my monitors, it'll sound quite different. I find transients I struggle with on the headphones. Certain transients sound quite different on the speakers. This happens frequently, so I've pasted and it's duplicated it on the same place. It hasn't put it on here. There doesn't seem to be like a place, like a pointer as to where you are in the chain, like in live. So now I want to apply something to both those hats. So maybe a send effect would make sense. So you can add a return here. And then I think we already have the existing sends here, which is nice. Yeah. Let's try something else though. Let's try the blur. See what blur sounds like. It's full wet. So now if I go to this, or actually if we click on this, does it show us the tracks? No, it doesn't. That's all good. We can just go here. So here is it adds it at the top. Okay, so now this is the send effect that's inside the drum rack. They do have convolution, so I could also try that. I did have it crash the door once, though, on stream, the first time I used it, so I'm a bit scared of it. I prefer some VSTs, I'm afraid. In fact, it could be guitar rig. Turn off the gate, turn on the second input so it's stereo, components, reverb, spring reverb. Full wet, because it's a send. That fills it out nicely. Hell yeah, my little master chain preset. Ooh. We don't need to do any limiting yet. Still a work in progress, but I would like to see various things. Pretty cool. Ah, I see. Took me a while to understand the controls. That's actually what I wanted. Don't really want to affect the quiet parts too much. Isn't that cool? You can have a center detent on your macros. interesting rolling bass sound. Ah, damn. I should have pressed escape. I was actually liking that one. I think we'll have to use the pads as a reference. First half was okay, second half not so much. Ooh. wonder if I can copy this here. Yes, looks like I can. Also, this has become like a lead. Oh, we have to hit enter maybe. I was hitting tab because in live I think you can tab to the next track. Actually, maybe it's arrow? No. All right. Nah. Okay. I feel like this curve should be inverted. I wonder if there's a way. Oh, yeah. Is that what I want? Yeah. I think that's what I want. All right, then I do that. That's more like it. I think it's not quite what I wanted. I think what I wanted we did that, right? What I actually want is flip vertically. Yeah. Oh, to see. How nice. I had to manually map that in my live in Ableton and then like save that as a template, but that's just the default here. C is click. And that is exactly what I wanted sound-wise. Hey, I'm doing all right. How are you doing? Making weird stuff. Don't know what I'm doing really. Just messing around. Having fun with it. Oh, that's interesting. Did I move the modulator? I did. I thought I'd copied it, but I moved it. So now it's inverted on the pad as well, which is fine. It just means we must go map, remove the mapping. It's actually great because then that should be the normal volume and then I modulate this down. Easy peasy. I love that you can have project-wide modulators. So on every track, I can modulate by these same things. So I've got the kick drum. It's actually the click from the kick drum I've got on a layer. And I can use that to duck things, which I've done on the bass. And then this one is doing the pad. But I also like that I was able to just move it from the pad to the global. So now that can be affecting more than one thing instead of just the pad. I still haven't saved. I have great disdain for my works in progress. The bar is pretty high nowadays. The space needs work. Sounds kind of one-dimensional. Feels like there's too much release on these notes at the end here. Ooh. You can move the loop brace. That's interesting. With one click. Oh, that's interesting. You've got a volume and a gain, so I could actually duck with the gain. After I automated the volume, I can still duck with the gain. Very well thought out piece of software. Let's see if Strike crashes Bitwig. Okay, maybe I'll save. This is a buggy drum thing. Sure. At least it's saved. Right. Show the plugin. Ooh, nice fills. I don't normally use this like that, but I might. compared to Ableton, different. Similar but different. Yeah. Are you an Ableton user? Look, missing Max for Live is a bummer. But I don't know. I find Max stuff to be kind of unstable. And I'd be pretty scared to use it in a live environment. Also seems somewhat CPU intensive. I don't know if it's my imagination. Could just be the ones I used. So, like, if Bitwig can implement thoughtful stuff like these modulators and it's part of the program as opposed to an add-on and doesn't use much CPU, then I'm all for it. For live performance, I would personally, I'll stick to live because it has a looper and the MIDI recording and overdubbing feels a bit more robust. In the clip launcher, for production, there's also pros and cons. I'm really enjoying it. It just feels there's certain things that do feel a bit more well thought out than in live. Not the best fill. I personally prefer the look of Bitwig. The shortcuts are customizable, that's also a plus. I'd like this browser a bit more myself, in terms of just clicking a button and searching for what you need. And it's context aware, whether it's effects or a generator or a drum module or a modulator. going to swap those two fills around. It was a happy accident. I was going to manually play these drums, which you can do. Anyway, it's not the best sounding drum kit when I play it, but their grooves sound pretty sick. So I'm just going to mute. Actually, I wanted to move the claps to follow their claps. So that's another thing live can't do. You can't select one thing and then skip something and then select something else. That, you can't do that in live. It's something, it seems simple and small until you've lived with it for years, in my case. Like most DAWs have that. And then I use Ableton and it's just like, oh yeah, this is a weird limitation. And it sucks if you have like multiple bits of audio on an audio track, like different hi-hats, and then you have softer and louder ones, and you want to select all the soft ones, and you just can't. And you've got to one by one move them to their own track if you want to be able to regularly do stuff to them. So it's pretty annoying. Pretty sure this was a duplicate. Excuse me. That's pretty annoying. Could even bring the bass back for that fill. So I would need to automate. Is this the frequency? Yeah. I'll just hit A. Very similar to live in that regard. You can automate the last touched thing. Nope. Not like that either. All All right. There's gotta be a way. I think it's in here. I think we have to make a clip first. Nope. There's a way. And I've figured it out before. I just haven't quite nailed the automation. That is one thing where live just has it nailed, I feel. There we go. You click at the top, then you get an automation item. Then if I select the item and Control and Shift, I can change the values in that item. And if I grab like that, apparently we were not automating what I thought we were. That's what I wanted. There we go. Now, if I alt drag down there, it didn't do it. Control alt drag did it. I don't know if we need the beat running first. Cool. I will shorten this a little bit. That's also neat. So the kick drum that's in this little pattern doesn't get affected. I wish A toggled like the unfolded automation instead of that automation mode, which I don't find particularly useful. Personal preference, I suppose. I feel like that's how live does it now, which is better. A strange track. What can we do to make this bigger? So we could put effects on the highs. I'm not bothering with their reverb right now. All right, I'm going to head off to bed, I think. Last little listen. I'll probably end up completely changing it another day or not. Since I've got 9 days left or 8 days left with Bitwig. I don't think I'll be buying it or renting it, at least not this winter, maybe next season. Because we're basically going into winter here. And, yeah, unless I suddenly find lots more work this winter, which you never know, I'm just kind of going to get through it. Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed that random stream, getting used to Bitwig slowly. Definitely enjoying it. I feel like I would make more music with this than Ableton personally. And I can't put my finger on why. Anyone who's watched me for a while knows I'll do stuff in live from time to time. And there's just something about it. And I feel like it's something to do with like the scaling with the sequencer versus the bottom section. I struggle to read stuff, and then I make the interface bigger, and then I don't have enough sequencer room. I'm used to Reaper where like you just never see your instruments unless you specifically ask for them. You can toggle everything off in live as well as in here and have more arrangement space. Yeah. So it's fine. I don't know what it is, but I don't have the same weird feeling in Bitwig. Like, I feel a little bit more at home in here for some reason. But as soon as my Bitwig trial expires, I'm going to try and write some stuff in live as well. I've got a live 12 license from somebody else, but I'm not sure, for how long. I don't know. I'd rather eventually upgrade mine. I have live 11 standard, so at some point I'd like to upgrade or get Bitwig, and then I could also use this on Linux, which is appealing. Because like on Linux, without Serum 2 or Phase Plant, I wouldn't really have anything granular inside of Reaper. Whereas here you've got granular in the sampler, and it seems pretty interesting and useful. So that's one of those things. Then also it's got a multi-sampler. So potentially, if I found, I'm sure there's some tools out there, I could actually multi-sample some of my VSTs like Strike. I don't think I would sample this drum kit, but there are some kits that I quite like, and then there's some in battery as well. In Contact. And like Modo bass, I might sample a few different basses. And then I'd be able to run on Linux with most of what I normally use, minus a few Windows-specific plugins. And I know you can run stuff in Wine as well, but yeah, it's a rabbit hole for another year, I think. At the moment, my Windows system is running well. If I eventually find out there's some huge security flaw and have to upgrade to 11, then I'll see how it goes with 11. I'm reluctant being dragged. Anyway, take care. Have a nice rest of your evening,